Hello everyone, Vic here with another video talking about the Halloween franchise. Today it's what ifs for the Halloween franchise part 2. I should have had Mr. Sandman play to open this video, but missed opportunity. But that said, I firstly want to thank everybody who subscribed to this channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're on the path to 1,000 subscribers, slowly but surely becoming probably the best Halloween franchise channel there is with Halloween videos. So if you like Halloween videos, you love the franchise, and you haven't subscribed, please do so. And in the future, we're going to be talking about all the franchises: Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Scream. I'm pretty much a sucker for all the 80s horror franchises and so much more. But we have some unfinished business with the Halloween franchise. Today, tackling more what if questions, some things that I scoured about online to find, things people have wondered about. Figured I'd throw my 2 cents in, just give my opinions. If you want to share your opinions on these exact topics, please in the comments feel free to do so. All right, number one, we have what if Halloween Ends picks up right where Halloween Kills left off? Well, you know, I think originally maybe that was the plan. Maybe the entire trilogy was going to take place in one night, and then when the pandemic happened and things slowed down, they had some time to think about it, and they realized maybe that wasn't the way to go. Okay, if you hypothetically did have it all take place in one night, how could you do it? Well, if we remember at the end of Halloween Kills, Michael has demolished the Evil Dies Tonight Club, the mob, the idiots, the worst version of Tommy Doyle. They've all been destroyed, thankfully, so they're no longer in the picture. And then he's killed Karen. If you pick up right where they left off, I would love for them to explain how the hell Michael got out the house at the end of Halloween Kills, because it was surrounded by police, so it doesn't make too much sense that he was able to escape there. But okay, there's a cut scene from Halloween Kills where Michael actually calls Laurie, and Laurie sort of knows it's him on the phone. Or actually, Michael, I should say, Laurie is talking to Karen on the phone, and then Michael kills Karen, and Laurie was on the line, so she heard Michael kill Karen. Look, I would have loved to seen Laurie's actual reaction to Karen dying. That would have been pretty emotional, impact wise, to see that on screen, and that's something we're robbed of with how they did it. So that'd have been cool. But okay, Michael in that same night, very wounded, let's say gets out of the house, makes his way back through Haddonfield. Laurie, now knowing that he took out Karen, is going to leave the hospital, go get whatever weapon she wants to take out Michael. I assume that Michael kills more people in Haddonfield. Now he's wounded though, so how do they approach that? Because obviously, from the canon we were given initially, it seems like that Michael in Halloween Ends is completely destroyed from his wounds and recovering in the sewers, but not really recovering. Needs this whole Corey thing to get his powers back. So I guess they dropped that whole thing, and Michael is wounded, but it's more of a Halloween 2 wound from the original Halloween 2, where he was shot 6 times, but is able to just basically brush it off and go kill people at the hospital. So maybe it's similar to that here. Laurie's wounds, that was one of the big emphasis to not have it take place in the same night, is that Laurie needs time to recover from her wounds. But listen, throw some Robitussin at her, a Band-Aid, and she leaves the hospital, and she's determined to kill Michael because Michael took out Karen, and now she wants to make sure that he doesn't take out Allison. So she's leaving the hospital. Her and Allison team up. So they still take out Michael. There's a way to do where it takes place in the same night, but you'd have to kind of want to make the movie take place in real time then, in terms of like, it's pretty late in the night by the time Halloween Kills ends, so I would say pretty fast paced. Let's be honest, it's probably a better movie than Halloween Ends. You wouldn't have the whole Corey thing, which I liked most of the Corey stuff, but at the end it ended up meaning nothing and having no significance to the overall story. So I'd be okay with the idea of having Halloween Ends take place right after Halloween Kills. Probably feels the probably make the trilogy feel a bit more coherent storyline wise. So okay, what if Donald Pleasance was available for H2O? Well, as some may know, Donald Pleasance passed away right after filming Halloween 6. In fact, before they did the reshoots, Donald Pleasance had already passed away. He was pretty old at that point. And what if he was available for H2O? H2O is 3 years after Halloween Curse of Michael Myers. So Donald Pleasance, a little bit older, so obviously he can't have too active a role at that point, just given his age. But he can still kind of show up, still give a few speeches. Um, there's a couple things you could have done with Loomis and H2O. You could have. I mean, I hate to say this, but naturally he would have been living with Miriam at that house at the beginning. So when Michael shows up, maybe he doesn't kill Miriam, maybe he actually kills Loomis in the opening of H2O. But that would be sort of disrespectful, I feel like. It doesn't make sense, and I just love that the idea that that Michael waited until Loomis had passed away before he came after Miriam to ransack the house. It was all about waiting until Loomis was gone. Um, okay, let's say Loomis is away from the house. He comes home at the end of the opening of H2O to find that Miriam has been killed. He sees the files have been ransacked. He knows that Michael knows that Lori faked her death. Now you have Michael, of course, making his way, big road trip over to where the school is in H2O. And now you have Loomis hot on his trails, not stealing cars like Michael, but with his own car, following Michael. Of course, it would kind of beg the question as to why he wouldn't then call Lori and warn her. So you have to have some way where where Loomis can't actually get in contact with Laurie Strode. So maybe he calls the school or calls the authorities, and maybe they don't believe him, or maybe I don't know. It's hard to see how you get Loomis involved, given that exact opening of H2O, because then all the cops also are after Michael as well. So I guess you really can't do that. Okay, so I think you'd have to rewrite H2O a little bit if you actually want to give Loomis an active role. They could also just say that Loomis, they could stick with the idea that Loomis has passed away. You don't have to use him there. But I have no doubt that Donald Pleasance, if he was alive, would have loved the opportunity to do the 20-year anniversary, and it would have felt more like a proper sequel to Halloween 2. It would have been a much better sequel, let's say, with the presence of Dr. Loomis. But yeah, you have to really figure something out. That may take some more thought. I mean, maybe I can map out something storyline wise, but I'm gonna have to really sit down and think about how you would incorporate Donald Pleasance in H2O. Okay, speaking of H2O, what if John Carpenter had directed Halloween H2O? Well, John Carpenter did meet with Miramax. So originally, Jamie Lee Curtis actually, pitches the idea to John Carpenter saying, hey, we're both alive. We're both still in the business. Why don't we do a 20-year anniversary? It's never been done before. John Carpenter was on board. When they met with, I guess with Miramax, supposedly, this has never been confirmed, but supposedly John Carpenter was on board as long as they paid him $10 million to direct Halloween H2O. Now, I love you, John, but $10 million? Who do you think you are, Chelsea Clinton? No, that's actually just a fun Rush Hour reference. But I think that, let's say that that wasn't an obstacle, and that, you had a true proper 20-year anniversary with both Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter coming back. How would the movie have turned out? Well, John Carpenter films always have a certain look to them. They have a certain feel. You think of the 80s John Carpenter movies, they have that amazing, for the most part, Dean Cundley cinematography. They have him scoring the film. They have just a certain look and feel that John Carpenter movies have. And then even to the 90s, the 90s ones have a very similar feel as well. So you would have had a much better score for H2O, because Carpenter would have taken care of the music, so it wouldn't have the scream music. Carpenter also likes to use the same actors over and over again, so I don't think it would have had that sort of CW scream teeny bopper feel. Carpenter probably finds more unknowns. I mean, actually, at this point, Josh Hartnett basically wasn't unknown, so he's still there. But Michelle Williams playing Molly, she was big on Dawson's Creek. So I don't know if she gets cast, but probably would be having more an adult feel, even though it has that teen angle to it. I just think Carpenter would have given it more of an adult feel, maybe more adult actors in the movie. So better score, different actors. Now, in terms of would it be a better movie, I think so. I think Carpenter probably wouldn't settle for the masks being all over the place. Wouldn't have that silly CGI Michael scene where he's behind Charlie. Then again, though, I don't know. Carpenter at this point, this is 1998. So instead of H2O, he basically went and made the movie Vampires. Now, I don't know if you've seen Vampires. It does have its fans. I'm not a fan of Vampires. Me and Nick watched Vampires last year, and Nick was high on it because he remembered some amazing thigh bite scene, but to me, it had one great scene towards the beginning of the movie, and the rest of the movie kind of goes off a cliff. Wasn't a huge fan of Vampires. So I don't think Carpenter was necessarily in his prime here, but maybe H2O would have rejuvenated that. Maybe we get something better here, but this was moving towards that later part of his career. We had Vampires and Ghost of Mars. It wasn't necessarily prime John Carpenter, but I trust the man. I think that him wanting to honor the Halloween legacy would have done a great job, and I think that probably we do get a better version of H2O, even though I'm not really that against the current version of H2O. So it would have been very welcome here. Now, one thing I'm going to clear up though is that supposedly John Carpenter at one point did have an idea for Michael Myers to go into space. This has never been confirmed or denied, but that is maybe some evidence though that maybe Carpenter just was overall mentally done with the Halloween franchise and probably should have stayed away. But I don't think we would have got necessarily H2O in space. Hopefully not. Okay. What if Michael in H2O is Tommy Doyle? Well, you know, I've long thought this, and I don't know if I've talked about this one in any of my videos, but the idea I saw online one time, and then I thought about it, let it marinate, and I was like, wait a minute. Could Michael Myers in H2O be a copycat? I think it's actually pretty plausible, to be honest. Some big time fan of the Michael Myers murders knows that the 20-year anniversary is coming up, decides to do this whole quest basically, goes and kills Miriam, who he knows from, records and evidence that she was involved in the events of Halloween 2, happens to stumble upon the idea of that Laurie Strode faked her death, and now is going to go full commitment, full copycat commitment, and is going to actually travel to then complete the mission that the copycat would say, hey, my idol Michael Myers failed to do, which is actually take out Laurie Strode. It kind of makes sense. I mean, a lot of people feel like Michael Myers in H2O does seem different, seems more human, seems a little bit weaker. It looks like that could be an average Joe Schmo with the Michael Myers mask on, and then I mean, honestly, at the end, then when he's reaching for Laurie, maybe he snapped to his senses and realized, hey, I took this copycat thing way too far. Maybe he was insane before. Now he snaps back to reality and he's like, hey, get this mask off me. I don't know what I've been thinking. Maybe that isn't Michael. Maybe that's the ploy. Maybe that's the place you can get to resurrection with this being a copycat in H2O. It is possible. I mean, and you could add the layer that it's Tommy Doyle. I mean, wow. I think the H2 audience, they were going for more of a casual audience. So I don't know how much they wanted to like get into the weeds with the series though. I don't know if like the audience for H2O necessarily the MTV sort of teen slasher audience of 1998. I don't know if they would have even recognized the name Tommy Doyle. So, but for the fans, of course, it would have been amazing to see that. But that might be too in the weeds for them to actually present. What they were looking for was more of a mainstream casual audience for H2O, it feels like. Okay, well, right along those lines, what if Michael in Resurrection is a copycat? Oh, well, okay. So let's say that it was not a paramedic in Halloween H2O and that, Michael's head did get actually chopped off. Um, or let's say it is a paramedic, whatever. Michael still goes in the woods. Let's go with the same relative idea. An idol of Michael Myers, a fan, hardcore fan, commits to the idea of like, hey, I'm gonna finish the job that Michael didn't finish. I'm gonna go visit Laurie Strode at the place she's at. I'm going to kill Laurie Strode, and then I'm gonna cosplay as Michael all the way back to the Halloween or the Michael Myers residence. And I mean, again, maybe. I mean, Michael in Resurrection also seems pretty weak, and getting his ass kicked by Busta Rhymes was pretty unflattering for Michael, pretty out of character. So maybe, I mean, the Kill and Resurrection could be a copycat also. So you could actually, with both H2O and Resurrection, you could actually, with both movies, you could take a direction saying that one of them was a copycat, both of them were copycats. It does kind of work, although I have to probably flesh it out more. I feel like if I get in the details of that, there's probably some contradictions where it doesn't work, but I don't know. Maybe, possibly. Okay, so let's see. What if Quentin Tarantino made Halloween 6? Okay. So long rumored and somewhat confirmed, when they went to do Curse of Michael Myers, they had pitched Quentin Tarantino with the idea of, hey, do you want to make this movie? And Tarantino actually thought about it for a few weeks and I guess had a story idea where it'd be Michael on a road trip, basically stopping in different towns and killing people. It really didn't get much of an explanation of what it would be, but it would be some kind of road trip Michael. It makes me think of From Dusk Till Dawn, and I do love From Dusk Till Dawn, but I don't love it as a Michael Myers Halloween film. So this is one of those things where it's kind of like you love steak, you love ice cream, but you don't want to have them together. I love Tarantino movies. I love Halloween. I don't think Tarantino and Michael Myers go together well. I mean, maybe I could have been wrong, but knowing Tarantino's style and sort of the talkative reliance on dialogue and language, stylistically, I don't know if it's a good fit for the Halloween franchise, but we'll never know. But I mean, hell, I would have been there opening night to see it though, for sure. So, okay. What if Jamie Lloyd doesn't die in Halloween 6? Okay. If Jamie Lloyd doesn't die, if they really bring back Danielle Harris for a proper sequel role, she's back in the movie, she's heavily featured, it's following her as a teen. If she doesn't die, well, if she does die, I think she's basically right there with Tommy Doyle and Kara fighting Michael in Halloween 6. And I also think that they still ignore that whole plot line going into H2O. I think that Jamie Lloyd versus Michael in Halloween 6 as the final battle makes a lot of sense. You went with Tommy Doyle and Kara as new characters to fight Michael, but that's a trilogy, the Thorn trilogy, where we've been following Jamie Lloyd. So as an audience, our emotional investment there is in Jamie Lloyd. So you probably should have stuck with that. Ah, this one's long been discussed. What if H2O was canon with the Thorn timeline? So basically, what if the Thorn timeline actually was canon with H2O? You know, can you connect those? Did the Thorn trilogy have to be retconned for H2O to work? Well, supposedly originally there was a scene written for H2O where Laurie in the classroom, one of her students would give a report talking about the death of Jamie Lloyd, which would make Laurie realize that, hey, the daughter she had left behind was killed. She would go back and throw up basically and realize that what she had done, the cost of faking her death and all that. Now, of course, everything was retcon, so we never got that scene. There's no telling if that scene actually really was in the script. There's been no confirmation, but I mean, it's very tough to include the Thorn trilogy with H2O simply because of the character Laurie Strode, the idea that she would have left Jamie Lloyd behind, took John, leaving one child behind and still raising the other child, leaving Jamie Lloyd behind to die at the hands of Michael Myers. It really puts the Laurie Strode character in a terrible light. So that's the one big obstacle. You kind of throw the Laurie Strode character in the trash, throw her in the bus, if you acknowledge that the Thorn trilogy happened, and if you acknowledge that, hey, the events of the most miserable, you know, plot line to ever happen to a character in horror movies is probably what happens to Jamie Lloyd in 4, 5, and 6. To put that on then Laurie Strode's shoulders and be like, hey, the guilt you should feel for doing this to your child, it's probably too much, and I understand why they took that out. The other thing too is like at that point, they really wanted to separate themselves from the audience of the Thorn trilogy or the lack of an audience and really start fresh. So I understand completely the idea of retconning the Thorn trilogy there. But I mean, what if it was canon? I mean, again, anything is possible. So there is probably a way to do it where you have to put some logic aside and say, hey, I mean, we're already saying that Michael survived this fire when we saw him on the ground burning. We're already saying that Loomis survived the fire when he clearly exploded in the bathroom. So we're already putting a lot of logical holes into a lot of suspension of disbeliefs already going into H2O. So you could throw, you could throw the Thorn trilogy in there. I mean, it'd be pretty interesting. Okay. What if Michael and Laurie were not related in Halloween 2? You can do Halloween 2 without Michael and Laurie being siblings. You can, yes. I know that John Carpenter famously drunkenly came up with the idea. He had no idea what to do with the story for Halloween 2. He had no plans to make a Halloween 2, so this was just a financial thing for him. But you can still do the same story. You just essentially, Michael goes to the hospital with the idea of that, hey, this is the one that got away. I killed Annie. I killed Linda. I tried to kill Lori, but she got away. I'm still alive. I'm going to finish the job. It could be that simple. He, on Halloween, he has an obsession with Lori because she came to the house. He saw her. Maybe she resembled, his other sister, but I don't know. But yeah, you could do the Halloween 2 without them being siblings. Now, the problem is if you do that, then it does change the entire rest of the franchise because remember, Halloween 4, Michael going after his niece kind of fits in the idea of Michael kills his family members. So you dramatically change Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6. Obviously, H2O is a totally different thing then as well. So you could definitely do Halloween 2, but then you have to figure out a new direction for the franchise that doesn't involve Michael going after family members. So, okay. What if Joy, what if Jamie Lloyd had stayed in the cop car at the end of Halloween 5? Well, if you remember the end of Halloween 5, the Man in Black comes and springs Michael out of jail, and then we find out later on that they actually had kidnapped Jamie Lloyd. Now, what if she stays in the cop car? Well, Jamie Lloyd was a very resourceful child, a very smart child. She'd been through so much being attacked by Michael that she was pretty weathered at that point. So I almost don't think her going to the cop station in the first place was even believable. I feel like maybe she would have stayed in the cop car. At that point, she's basically like a little kid from Sixth Sense, where probably she had a sixth sense about, hey, something doesn't feel right about this. I'm going to stay right here, or I'm going to get out the car and run. So obviously, if she stays in the cop car, the Man in Black and Michael Myers. I mean, maybe they have an idea that she's in the cop car, but probably not. I'm guessing that they saw her come into the police station and then kidnapped her from there. But I don't know. Maybe she gets away scot free if she just stays in the police car. It's pretty interesting. Okay. What if they made Halloween Michael Myers versus Pinhead? Well, this was discussed back in the day after Freddy vs. Jason made crazy amounts of money. They thought about the idea of Michael Myers versus Pinhead. A great title, Halloween. I mean, just the name itself, I think, sells it well. And Freddy vs. Jason was such a big success. But at that specific point in time, it's like Pinhead at that time, I believe the Hellraiser franchise had kind of gone direct to video. So I don't know if Pinhead really had the clout to be a proper matchup for Michael at that exact moment. That's the only thing about it. I don't know if Pinhead himself was a big enough name to take on Michael in a realistic way. It's kind of like Freddy vs. Jason works because you have the two biggest horror icons or two of the top three going against each other. But I don't know if Pinhead was at that level at that point. Um, and this is probably 2002, 2003-ish. At that point, I mean, the big four at that point definitely are Michael, Freddy, Jason, and Chucky. But I don't know how you'd get Michael versus Chucky in a movie. But hell, I would have seen it. I would have loved it. I mean, I'm not that familiar with the Hellraiser franchise, so it's one of those franchises that I actually have to go back and watch. And I've heard the first couple are really good, but then I know it kind of goes off the Children of the Corn cliff where you have a bunch of direct-to-video sequels and shit goes to hell. But that's something I got to check out for sure sometime. Okay, what if Paul Rudd had come back to play Tommy Doyle in Halloween Kills? Well, Paul Rudd said that, hey, he's like, I would have done it, but I had contractual obligations. I had another movie I was filming, so I couldn't fit into my schedule. If you get Paul Rudd back to play Tommy Doyle, I think it changes the entire dynamic of Halloween Kills. Paul Rudd is such a big star that if he signs on, I don't care what you had planned, you rewrite that damn script to make Tommy Doyle a good character, a bigger character, and you center the movie around him because we know that Jamie Lee Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be in the hospital here giving weird speeches and basically having no role in Halloween Kills. So we have a bunch of sort of faceless, mindless characters. We're bringing back characters from the past that have no reason to be here, and basically we really don't care about them anymore. And the new characters that are pretty much faceless characters. You have Allison and Karen and all this. I just think there's a great middle chapter here focused on Tommy Doyle, making him really the main character and the focus of Halloween Kills. And if Paul Rudd comes back to play him, I think you rechange the entire movie. You have Tommy Doyle probably survive at the end, honestly. Like, figure out a way that he gets away from the mob. Michael takes everybody else because if Paul Rudd agrees to do it, then I'm like, man, I want to use Paul Rudd for the third movie also. We're gonna keep him alive, but I just think that changes the entire dynamic. It would elevate Halloween Kills because Paul Rudd's a better actor than pretty much everybody in that movie. So I feel like it would elevate that movie to a whole different level, and they would definitely rewrite the script and make it a lot better. And I think probably we don't get the same Evil Dies Tonight bullshit. So okay. What if Michael and Laurie were still siblings in the new trilogy? Okay. They wanted to restore Michael to his purity from the original Halloween by not having them be siblings, but then you kind of give the same damn end result. It ends up with a battle between Michael and Laurie at the end of Halloween 2018, a battle between Michael and Laurie at the end of Halloween Ends. It feels like they're brother and sister in the trilogy. It feels like they have some connection. It feels like they are still sort of, it's kind of like you want to have your cake and eat it too by having them disconnected, but then because they're disconnected, you have to come up with all this bullshit like the Sartain stuff to kind of get them together. Just make them siblings. Why not? I mean, you don't necessarily have to keep Halloween 2. I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't know. I mean, I just think you solve a lot of problems there if you actually make them siblings. A lot of the trilogy to me makes more sense if they're brother and sister. Then Laurie's 40-year obsession with Michael makes more sense if you think if my brother escapes, he's going to come back after me directly. But them being completely disconnected, it causes a lot of weird things to happen in the trilogy to force them to end up in the same places. So I'm somebody who has no problem with the sibling storyline. I think that we all grew up with them being siblings, and then in the last like 5-10 years, people went online on Reddit and Facebook and stuff, and it became popular, especially when you hear the Carpenter soundbite about, hey, I was drunk when, I didn't know what to do with the story. So everybody acts like they didn't grow up with the sibling storyline as it is. You fell in love with the Halloween franchise with them being siblings. So there's a big retcon amongst fans that this was like the sibling thing was stupid and then all that. It's like, well, for like 30 years, that was the canon that we grew up on. So, anyways, what if Jason fought Michael? We have a video about this we've done way back in the archives, but basically, human Jason versus human Michael. So let's say Halloween 1, Halloween 2 Michael versus Jason from parts 1 through 4, Friday the 13th. They have an interesting battle. Michael can compete with Jason from parts 1 through 4. I think Michael fans are a little bit too quick to think that human Michael would take out human Jason. Human Jason from parts 2, 3, and 4 is still very, very strong. Very strong. He does some things. He throws guys through windows like lawn darts. He lifts people out of their shoes, crushing their cranium with his bare hands. Jason's strength from parts 2, 3, and 4 is pretty underrated. Now, Zombie Jason from part 6 on clears any version of Michael. I love Michael. I love Thorn Michael, part 6 Michael, Rob Zombie Michael, but Zombie Jason from part 6 on he would little brother Michael. Michael would have a 2-minute battle with he would probably look at Jason from the shadows. Michael would do his stalking. He would realize what Jason is, and he would walk in the other direction. Michael would be like, whoa, I'm not even dealing with this. So if they fought, it would be like Michael hesitantly trying to get away, and Jason forces the fight, and then Jason's just going to like low bro him. I mean, yeah, no, I don't see it. What if Freddy Krueger fought Michael? Now, very interesting. Now, Freddy's strategy against Jason, if you remember, is to get into his head, find his fears, figure out that, oh, Jason's afraid of water, which of course is bullshit. But what happens if Freddy goes into Michael's head to try to find some weakness about Michael to use against him? Well, the inside of Michael's head is probably just pure evil, pure nothingness. So that may freak Freddy out. Freddy might be like, oh my God, what the hell? What is this? Like, Freddy may like come out of Michael's dream just being like, dude, I'm not going back there. So very interesting to see how that would have played out. I don't think that Michael is as vulnerable mentally as vulnerable as Jason is. So I don't think Freddy could capitalize on that. But in Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy is a badass. This man has more fighting skills than John Wick and Freddy vs. Jason. So in a 1-on-1 fight, the Freddy vs. Jason, does bust Michael Myers' ass, because we know that Michael Myers cannot handle Kung Fu, as we've seen the other Freddy, Busta Rhymes Freddy, destroy Michael in Mortal Kombat. So, okay. What if the franchise would have actually gone forward with being an anthology series? Closest thing you could think of is you have Halloween 3, you have the movie Trick or Treat. If it goes for as an anthology, I'll be honest. I think they make one or two of them. I think they bomb at the box office, and I think that's it. I think the Halloween franchise ultimately is known strictly for parts one as a classic, and then after that, it's really not known as an iconic franchise the way it is now. Michael Myers, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, Daniel Harris. These people made Halloween an epic franchise. These characters made it epic. They made it memorable. The anthology thing, although probably would have been fun to see, probably doesn't maintain Halloween as like an upper tier horror franchise. It falls behind Nightmare on Elm Street, then I'm sure it falls behind Friday the 13th, it falls behind Scream. Michael is a through line through the series, just keeps that iconic status. So, okay, folks, that is part two of the What Ifs of the Halloween franchise. Sure, pretty soon, eventually, there'll be a part three, as I have to scour online for more what if questions to talk about. And if you guys, again, enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And until next time, you guys take care.